Morning. Dwayne here, Dry Creek Wrangler School. So today is Thursday, and we got a class here this week, and we got an extra student, so we got 6. Wound up just a booking situation, and but we've got a horse that's kind of lame, so we're short a horse. So Momma and Noah, my apprentice, took the ride out this morning. They're on about a 3-hour ride. And I thought, well, I'm a little behind on an upload, so I'd take this opportunity and make a video. So, got a SMS Meerschaum. I love a Meerschaum pipe, and I'm smoking Mac Barian Original Choice in it. That's about one of the only Cavendish semi-aromatic blends that I'll smoke. But it's pretty mild and smooth today, so that's what we got going on. I know some of you guys will ask. Down at the ranch house, we've got a fire pit. Now it's not really a pit. It's one of those fire pits that you buy. We bought this one from Big R, it's got the screen lid that you put on it, and we have fires down there quite a bit of an evening. But when we're about done for the evening, we don't go get gallons of water and pour on the fire. We don't bring in a wheelbarrow of sand and start shoveling on the fire. There's different ways to put fires out. Usually what we do is we just sit there, and I ask them, they really like to feed wood to the fire. So I asked the ones who are going to stay, I said, are you guys going to be up here much later? And usually they're like, no, probably another hour. And because I leave early, I go down pretty early. I'm not a late night person. So I'll tell them, I'm like, well, we probably don't need to put any more wood on it then, because we don't want to go to bed with a big old fire out here left unattended. So what we do to put the fire out is we quit putting fuel on it, and the fire goes out. Now sometimes if we're ready to go to bed and there's a couple of logs down in there that's charred and still kind of burning and whatnot, we'll take a poker and we'll separate them out. Are you listening to what I'm saying? We'll separate them out. We'll take that one log and move it to this side, and take this log and move it to this side, and if they're not together, they'll both just burn out, and then we go on to bed. And there's a lot of fires in life, and people think that the only way to put a fire out, whether it's a fire in a relationship, a fire in any kind of trouble, any kind of trial, is you've got to attack that fire, and you got to pour water over it, you got to pour sand over it or whatever. But sometimes the best way to stop a fire from burning is to stop feeding it. And another way to put a fire out, you ever taken a candle or sitting there burning and take a jar, turn it upside down and put it over the candle, and the candle goes out? Why? Because another way to put fire out is to remove the oxygen. If you remove the oxygen, the fire goes out. Even a Proverbs says, this will probably won't be exact, but where there is no fuel, the fire goeth out. Where there is no wood, the fire goeth out. It's the same with our horses. I saw a B movie. I'm not a big movie guy. I don't hardly watch movies, but I was on a plane or something somewhere few years ago, and I saw a movie that had that wrestler, Stone Cold Steve Austin, in it, and but he had a line in that movie, and guy came up and he looked at him and said, "Look, don't start none, won't be none." And it's amazing how much we can settle our life down and settle conflict down if we just kind of take that up as our mantra. Don't start none, won't be none. And somebody sits there and they'll build a fire, and you just look at it and you're like, I'm not adding wood to that fire. And so the fire will eventually go out. That conflict will go out if we stop adding fuel to it, or if we stop adding oxygen to it. It's going to just go out. And it works with people and it works with horses. You know, so many times we get in a fight with our horse, and the fight's not necessary. It takes two to fight, whether it's a person or a horse or whatever it is. It takes two to fight. And you know, a lot of times you can just, I'm not going to engage. And they're raging and they're foaming at the mouth and they're carrying on person or horse or whatever. And you're like, sorry, I'm not going to engage. I'm going to go do something else. I'm not fighting about this. And there is no fight. It goes out. One of my recent videos, I was talking about my new bay mare, Ray, and how we went to Jingle Inn, and it didn't work out the way I planned because she went on the fight. So we just stopped. That tobacco's a little bit moist. You can hear the moisture rattling down in the pipe there. So we stopped. I let the horses leave, and she wanted to charge after them, and she wanted to buck, and she wanted to kick, and she wanted to fight. And I'm like, no, we're not going to fight. And after a minute, she just settled down. It's like, okay. The horses came in, and then we followed in, and we got the job done, and we got it done without a fight. Well, you know, I've been thinking about that, and I thought, you know, I wonder if I read that just a little bit too, if I read her right on that. Well, last week my son was here visiting for a day. He was here for 2 days, actually. And we came up here to get a horse. He took Reba the mule, those who know us and you follow, he took Reba the mule with him to Idaho up on the mountain because she just needs a bunch of work. And they were short some animals. And so we came up here to get her, and everything was out, and they had to be jingled in. So I said, Jesse, why don't you take Ray and check her out for me, see what you think? And because he really wanted to ride her, I said, and you go get them in. Well, it turns out he did the same thing. Went out there, got them started, and then when they took off, I saw him stop. It was way out there, but I saw him stop, and the horses come running in, and he messed with her for a little bit, and then he calmly came in. I asked him what happened. He said, she wanted to fight. And he said, I felt her bunch up. Now, I'll be the first one to sit here and admit, Jesse sets a horse and rides bucking horses and everything way better than I do. He doesn't have the years as far as, you know, the horse, the psychology and the horse instinct and reading the horse quite to that degree, but he's an excellent horseman. And he rides a horse better than I do. And I thought, well, then I am justified, because there's someone who sits a horse as well as Jesse does, took the exact same approach in the exact same situation as I did. But it's like stopped and there is no fight. A lot of times you get in an arena or in a round pen or you're out and your horse is scared of fly spray. And you go to fly spray and they don't like it. They're not going to take it. And they kind of, and if you push it, you get on the fight. And there'll be a fire. But there doesn't have to be a fire. There doesn't have to be a fight. And now sometimes the fire gets so big and we didn't start it and there's nothing we can do about it. Now, I mean, you wake up and the house is smoking, you find out the kitchen's on fire, you're going to aggressively go in there and try to put the fire out. And in relationships, sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes the only way you can put the fire out is to attack it with everything you have. But that's rare. I mean, how often does your house catch on fire? You know, in the old days, out on the prairies, they'd have prairie fires, and they still do at times. And you know, a lot of times what the farmers would do, they would hitch up their plows real quick. They see the fire coming towards them. Well, they're not going to rush out there and fight that fire. They can't fight that fire. So they hitch up their plows and they just start plowing a ring around the homestead, around the house, or just in front of it, in between them and the fire. And they'll plow as much as they can get plowed between them and the fire. Well, the fire will burn into a point, and what happens when they plow is a plow turns the earth over. So all the dead grass, all of the fuel that the fire would burn, when the fire gets to that, there's no fuel. They just made that fuel disappear. They just turned it over, and fire won't burn the earth. And so the homesteads would be saved, the houses, the barns, the livestock, and everything be saved, because they just went out there and just removed the fuel. Just remove the fuel. Just remove the fire. And there's too much, this world, man, there's just too much conflict. There's just too much. People are just going around, and people are just so agitated, and they're angry at this person, and they're fussing with this person, and they're sniping back and forth on Facebook with this person. And you know, if somebody just say, okay, and just remove, no, I'm not going to throw another stick of wood on that fire. I'm not going to. You're welcome to believe and to think what you want to think, and I'm not obligated to get on here and to change your mind. It is not my obligation and my responsibility to change your mind. It happens all the time on not all the time. I'm not going to say that. Not near as much as it used to. But it happens quite often on the channel, on the YouTube channel, in the comments. Somebody get on, and I had somebody, I don't know, last week or so get on, and they were a little bit scratchy about something, and they said something that was not accurate. And so I got on there and to explain myself and say, this is what this is where I was coming from, and this is what I was saying. And they came back on real quick, scratchy. And I said, well, you know what? You can believe what you want to believe. It's okay. I don't feel a responsibility to sit here and discuss this with you. And they got back and said, well, I'm so disappointed. I thought we were going to have a dialogue and a conversation. No, you didn't. You thought we were going to have an argument. And people are looking for an argument. And I'm not going to argue. I'm just not going to argue. And that's what you need. Many of you need to start developing this outlook in life. Don't start none. Won't be none. Don't engage. If you have a fire, if you have a little smoky, smoldering fire and it's there, all right, but it's not burning real good, if you'll take a bellows, something that blows air, and blow air down on that fire, all of a sudden it'll become a raging conflagration. Well, that's what discussions and conflict, that's exactly. Air is talking. It's just oxygen. It's just air, just talking. And, you know, a lot of times a conflict that doesn't necessarily need to be a conflict, something that's a minor disagreement, but somebody just can't shut up. And so they'll throw oxygen on that fire. And it becomes a raging conflagration that never had to be. It just wasn't necessary. And, you know, a horse a lot of times, if we just, you know, you can tell they'll get agitated. They'll get upset. They'll get cranky. Some horses more than others. That little bay mare will. I mean, she's got a spitfire little temper. And she's getting better, and she's coming along. And so what I do is unless it gets to a situation where I'm like, all right, she will just, if I meet her head to head, she'll just conflagrate, man. She'll get mad. And we're not going to get anything accomplished like that. And so I'm like, no, I'm not gonna butt heads with you. I'm not going to start anything. We'll just do a couple circles, and we'll just go around and just get your mind about you and just settle down. And we'll approach this again carefully and calmly. And so there's no fire. So there's no fight. The last podcast I did a subject that I knew was going to be, some folks are going to have a hard time with it. I thought about it for a long time. I chewed on it, meditated on it, and made sure that I understood what I was talking about. And so then I put the podcast on, and I had a friend call me. Now, this friend is he is a friend, and he's a man I have tremendous respect for. He's a very learned man. He's a very thoughtful man. He's a studied man. He's together, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for them. And so he called me, and he had just listened to the podcast, and he was perfect. All right, very respectful, very not. He was not contentious in any way. And so he called, and he's like, Dwayne, I think you missed the mark on this one, man. And so I said, well, what is it about it that you think I missed the mark? And he told me. And I said, well, I can see your side and how you can see that, but I understand what I was saying, and I think my position is I think it's correct from a lot of years of experience and a lot of years of study, and I don't have any kind of heartburn at all that you don't see it the way I see it. And so, and it was all perfectly good. There was no fire. Now, if I had felt the need to aggressively defend my position, then I would have started a fire. I would have blown on something that would have turned into a fire. But we had a difference of opinion on a religious question of all things, all right? But it was approached by two thoughtful, mature adults in a calm, respectful manner, and both of us were allowed to lay out how we see that particular subject from our particular side, and there wasn't a fire. Why can't more people do that these days? Why do some of you people feel like you have to get on this channel and the horse stuff and throw a grenade in the middle of it because you see it differently? Why? When I go through and I read these comments, I'm like, I can just imagine what your personal life must be like. People must hate you, don't want to be around you. You must be the person that walks, when you walk in, everybody just kind of seizes up. Oh my, are they going to like strike a match into the drapes? Because they just, what is it saying? Some people just want to watch the world burn. They just want to set it on fire to watch it burn. Why? Why? It's not necessary. And you're just burning your life up, and you're distorting and burning and charring other people's lives. Why can't you let them live in peace in the way they want to live? Okay? That is the big, and I'm gonna step into a place I don't normally step into, okay? But today in society, it's a major deal, all right? That is the problem with this LGBTQ plus whatever situation, all right? You can call yourself what you want. You can consider yourself to be whatever you want. Now, whether I think you're right or I think you're wrong doesn't matter, because it's not about me. I'm not the one that anybody has to answer to, okay? So I don't insist that you change your view of who you are. Stop insisting that other people change their view of who you are. Other people's view don't matter. One day when I die, I got to stand before God. I believe that 100%. Not whether I'm going to be go to heaven or not. That's already settled. All right? That's not. But you don't stand before me, and I don't stand before you. And so I feel like I can let you, as long as you're not trying to affect my life, I can let you do what you want. You can ride any kind of saddle you want. You can ride on any kind of saddle blanket you want. You can feed your horse donuts and sugar cubes if you want. It's your horse. I put out information, and you do what you want with it. And I'm not going to pick a fight with you over it, but I'm not going to let you pick a fight with me either. Okay? I don't need any more fires in my life. I've walked away from some really, really big fires that burnt me up. And a lot of them I started. And somebody would start a fire, and I'd throw the biggest log I could find on it. And of course it would, and it just went from there, and it just didn't end. And I finally matured to the point where I'm like, that's no way to live. That's just the actions of a troublesome, problematic human being. Okay, so just step back and let the fire go out. All right, just remove the fuel. Just take a jar and put it over the candle. There's no oxygen. The oxygen can be in the form of texting, telephone calls, Facebook, comments on YouTube channels, face-to-face, whatever. Just back away. Stop putting fuel on it. Stop adding oxygen to it. Let people make their own deal, and you make your own deal. And when somebody says, I disagree, then stop and look at what they're saying they disagree. Consider it. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're wrong. I could be wrong. I could be right on any given thing. Look at it. And if you consider that you're right, then let them have their opinion and don't feel the need to change it and just keep going. Okay? You don't answer to them. I mean, you answer to your boss if it's a work thing. You answer to your parents, if you're underage. You answer to your spouse to a degree, to some level or not, if you want peace in the family. But the rest of it, let the fire go out. And with your horse, you're the adult in the situation. Okay? They're only doing what their instinct tells them they have to do, or what their understanding tells them they need to do. That's all they're doing. Now, if you figure that you are more advanced and you're more intelligent and you're smarter than them, then by the same token, you should be smarter than them to the point that you can say, let's redirect this so that we can come to a calmer, slower understanding without a fight. I'm not going to add more fuel to this fire. The horse doesn't know to not add more fuel to the fire. They don't know. They're just doing what they think has to be done. That's their understanding, that's their instinct, and that's all they got. Okay? So stop fighting with your horse. Stop fighting with your spouse, your significant other. Stop fighting with your friends. If you're fighting with your friends all the time, they're probably not friends anyhow. There's too much fire in this world. We're burning it up. All right? We're burning ourselves up. We're burning everything around us up. And we're going to wind up with nothing but coals and dirt, ashes, smoke. There won't be anything left. There won't be anything left of your life. There won't be anything left of your sanity. There won't be anything left of your inside. You'll have burned them all up with just anger and stress and just fights and fire. Stop before you burn your entire world down around your ears over things that just don't matter. Stop before you burn your relationship with your horse up and they buck you off and break your foolish, angry neck. Before you turn them into something that's always looking for a fight. Before they get the idea that, okay, this is what riding is. Riding is every time somebody gets on me, we have a pecking order fight to see who's boss today. And it has to be who's boss. And it's who's going to win the fight. And horses will get that. They will get that understanding of what things are, and they'll get it from us. We will teach them that everything is a fight, and may the best man win. No, a lot of times there's a conflict. May the calmest, wisest, humblest man win. And humility is not weakness. Humility is you're smaller than I am and you're weaker than I am, but you're getting in my face and I could break your head, but I'm not going to. That's humility. All right? Humility is I can do this to the horse and I can do that and I can do this and I can do that, but I'm not going to. All right? Have a little wisdom, have a little humility, and start putting out fires instead of building fires. Okay? All right. Got a little bit of news for the school, for those who follow. I'm pretty excited about this. Momma and I are actually this year for the NFR. we're going to be in Vegas for 3 days. Not going to the NFR. I can't afford them tickets. Not interested in that. But we're going to be at Cowboy Christmas for 3 days. Our friends and our sponsor, Rand's Hat, they have a booth that'll be set up there at Cowboys Christmas, and we're going to be with them at their booth. And so if you're there and in Vegas or at the NFR in December, swing by and say hey. Swing by the booth at Rand's and come by and say hey to Mama and I, and it'd be fun. And hope to see you there. So other than that, I think that's it for today, and we'll catch you guys next time.